Good evening, this is Sasha Allenby.
And this is Sandy, new bigging.
And we're delighted to have this opportunity to share Matrix Reawakening with you guys from all over the world. So, hello and welcome. So, the format for tonight, we just want to tell you a little bit and update you a little bit about our own stories, our own experience with this, and how it came about. And then we're going to share with you the basics or groundworks of two really innovative techniques that you can use on yourself and also with your clients as well. So we're going to give you some theory and some background to that as well. But we want to start by sharing some of our stories. I know not all of you know me and not all of you know Sandy. So we'd just like to start by sharing a little bit about ourselves. Sandy, do you want to start first?
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago, I had what I would describe as my rock bottom wake up call because although everything was going fantastic in my career and personal life, I was on television around the world doing my work. I had fully booked retreats and clinic and courses, and I was in magazines and newspapers, and I had a publishing deal with the main publisher. It was still my mid-20s, and I was with the girl of my dreams, in the house of my dreams, driving the car of my dreams, and you might go, well, could that be your rock bottom wake-up call? Well, it happened because I woke up one day and realized that despite having all these things, my life's goals, really, I wasn't happy yet. And I still felt a big hole in my chest, and I still experienced loneliness. Even if I had a room full of people around me, I still had this sense of loneliness and separation. And so my frustration at life, I started to become very critical in my life. And it basically led to the inevitable person in my life leaving, my girlfriend leaving at the time, which she had every right to do so because I was being really moany around at that time. And taking the child that I'd been raising as well, because she wasn't biologically my child. I'd been raising her because the father had disappeared, and so I was left overnight having lost two people I was in love with, in a way, I love dearly, and I ended up losing the house and the car and a big, huge pile of money, and I found myself finding it hard to live with myself, and it was a very perplexing, confusing set of circumstances, and it was around about that time when someone said to me, have you tried meditation? And I was like, oh, meditation, I can't do it. And they said, well, how do you know you can't meditate? And it was a real eye-opener because no one had ever asked me such a question. They always agreed with me that meditation was hard. No one had ever asked me, how do you know that? So I said, well, I can't stop my mind. I closed my eyes to start meditating, and all I have is thoughts. And they said, well, guess what? You don't have to stop your thoughts in order to experience peace with meditation. It made no sense to me whatsoever at the time, but I was curious and in need of peace. And I went along and learnt meditation. And a few months later, I found myself on a 6-month meditation retreat, meditating up to 18 hours every day, really diving in to explore my relationship with myself, my relationship with my mind, how to be more present, and how to live in much more joy and fullness. And since then, I've meditated for literally thousands of hours, and I've discovered through these hours many insights that will help you gain the similar experience without having to meditate for the thousands of hours. And what I've discovered is it actually only takes a moment to return back to being consciously aware. So I had all my attention on what I was aware of and my thoughts and emotions, and I wasn't consciously aware. And the minute I came back to being consciously aware, I discovered true freedom. And that was really my true turning point, and my journey to then meeting Sasha last year, and us discovering that we're on a very similar path with similar intentions. And so I can't wait for Sasha to be able to tell you about her turning point as well.
Thanks, Sandy. And it's great that you share that, that you had everything going on in your external reality, that was considered success, yet the happiness wasn't there. I hear this a lot with a lot of people. So we're going to kind of like help you guys to experience peace or happiness, whatever's going on in your external reality. And that's kind of what this work is all about, the fundamentals of what it's all about. And it actually kind of ties in with the turning point I had when I had chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, I know a lot of you know me. I know that there's some new guys on the call who have come through, Sandy as well. So just briefly, I had this phenomenal turning point when I had chronic fatigue syndrome. And at this point, I was laying in bed maybe 20 or so hours a day. I was completely disabled with chronic fatigue. And one day I heard my thoughts, I actually heard myself, and I heard myself saying things like, this is awful, I'll never recover, I'm never going to get better. And then I kind of heard another voice saying, who's making it awful? And I realised it was me. And I had this realization in this moment that although pain was inevitable given my physiological condition, that suffering was a choice. Now, I went on to train and work with people all over the world to help them do what happened after that turning point, which was to heal myself with techniques such as EFT, matrix reimprinting, and so on. But it only occurred to me in this last couple of years, or maybe even just this last year or so, that I'd never really thought about helping people have that turning point, that moment that I had where I was laying in bed, where I was suffering, and where I suddenly released the suffering. I suddenly released that kind of trap, that suffering that I'd created for myself. So, in the last couple of years, I had an experience in Israel, which I wasn't sure what was actually happening to me at first, but the yogis call it the awakening of the bliss body. And I suddenly, for no reason at all, experienced phenomenal and profound bliss. It was a complete bliss awakening. And I spent the last kind of year or so looking at how to integrate that into my everyday reality. And as a result, my perspective has changed quite dramatically. And I realised for many years what I've been doing was fixing my story or fixing my relationship to my story, and always wanting to fix, change, and improve something, either on the inside or on the outside, in order to be okay in this moment. So, in other words, that awakening that I had when I suddenly realised that I was like lost in my thoughts, I hadn't really kind of applied that to my everyday living. And the result was that although I had also, like Sandy, a lot of success, I was still kind of in this whole mode of fixing, changing, improving all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that fix, change, and improve path. And we're going to talk about how this work fits into that in a short while. But for me, to come back to conscious awareness, to come back to this understanding that I'd spent so much time working on my subconscious and my subconscious programs and all the stuff that was going on beneath, that I hadn't really paid attention to my consciousness, my thought programs, and my thought patterns. And so had this phenomenal experience where I accidentally, I think Sandy sent me his book Thunk, or for some other reason Sandy sent me his book Thunk. And his book Thunk is all about how your mind is being thunk if your mind is kind of like just kind of chewing over and churning over stuff over and over again. And I was still being thunk to some extent. So, teaming up with Sandy this past year or so and seeing how we've got a similar viewpoint and bringing that together to create a tool for you guys that you can use to take yourself out of those thinking patterns, but also a tool that Sandy's already been developing independently that enables you to apply that to your everyday life, is what we're going to bring you tonight.
Exciting, eh?
It really is exciting. It really is exciting. We've been waiting for this moment to share this with you guys for a while now, and it's really great that this time has come. So, tonight on the webinar, we're going to share the basics of Matrix Reawakening. It's a standalone tool, and it's a tool that you can use whenever you get caught in your thinking, whenever you get caught in your thought processes, whenever you get caught kind of like lost in your story and you find yourself chewing on something in your mind over and over again. So obviously we're not going to teach you the full technique tonight, but we are going to give you some pieces from it that you can apply straight away to any kind of story or anything that's going on in your mind.
We're also going to explore a little bit about the mind calm meditation, which I created. I've been teaching meditation around the world for a number of years now, and the meditation I've been teaching has involved a little bit ritual, a little bit historical, traditional elements to it that turn some people off. And what I last year or the year before, I can't remember exactly, I lose track of time, I came with a real passion to have a form of meditation that I could share with the mainstream. People that I don't really want to get necessarily involved in all the ritualistic religious stuff, but they're much more interested in just finding a simple, down-to-earth, modern-day technique to help them experience more mind calm, in order to help them experience more peace, clarity, focus, to live in the present moment more. And so mind calm meditation is all about helping people to get peace with mind, which we're going to explain that term term later on. And when combined with Matrix Reawakening, we're finding it to be incredibly effective. It gives stability and an ongoing practice to the Matrix Reawakening system, but it also enables you to have an ongoing meditation practice alongside it, so that it becomes a habit to awaken more and more every moment.
Beautiful. And the thing is, you can do Matrix Reawakening on its own, but the effects, like Sandy said, are heightened tenfold when you use it in conjunction with Mind Calm and create a regular meditation practice with Mind Calm as well. And we're also going to be sharing with you at the end of the broadcast how you can learn more about these two phenomenal techniques as well. So we're going to give you lots of quality, lots of value in the broadcast, and then share at the end if you want to look at learning with us further. So our objective tonight, we want to share with you our vision of a new paradigm. And when we say a new paradigm, there's been two existing paradigms that have kind of gone perhaps side by side in the transformation self-help industry, and we call it the fix it and live with it paradigm. Now, the fix it is all the fix, change and improve stuff that you've ever done to create transformation in your life, and all the tools like EFT, matrix reimprinting, mind detox if you've come through Sandy's route, hypnotherapy, they all kind of come under this fix it brand. And then there's the more traditional kind of live with it approach, which is your traditional things like meditation, your traditional things like yoga, your traditional things where you aren't changing your inner environment or your external reality, you're changing your relationship to it. And what we want
to... the good news...
Go on, sorry, darling.
Oh. And the good news is that what we're going to suggest, that you can actually do both. You're free to fix, change and improve anything that you want, but what tends to happen if someone is solely trying to fix, change and improve life is they often never get there. They never get back to the present moment. They're in the mindset that I can't be happy now, I can't be at peace now, I can't experience contentment and joy and love now, because I have something I need to fix, change and improve first. Or people swing the other end and they go so far into meditation that they try to experience an absolute surrender where whatever happens, happens, and they're okay with anything. And the good news is that you can actually play in both paradigms along in this journey, where you can, from a place of perfection, from an inner place of wholeness and completeness and absolute peace, you can engage life fully and through a conscious choice play in the world to fix, change, or improve whatever you want. But it comes from a completely different place, and it actually makes the results in your external world much more smooth and in the flow than if you're trying to choose either one or the other.
And so I want to talk to you a little bit about where this fits in with re-imprinting to reawakening. Some of you guys are matrix re-imprinting enthusiasts and practitioners. You don't have to be to get into Matrix Reawakening, by the way. Matrix Reawakening and Mind Calm are apps for absolutely anybody, regardless of if you've got Matrix Reimprinting, if you've done Mind Detox with Sandy, or if you've come through another modality, or even if you don't have any modality at all. But for you guys who have been with me for a while now and who have come to me through Matrix Reimprinting, then I just want to kind of share with you how I see this shift and how I see that this fits in with Matrix Reimprinting. So just to be very clear, it doesn't replace Matrix Reimprinting. There's still a very great need to use this tool in order to resolve trauma, and I still feel that Matrix Reimprinting is the most effective tool to resolve trauma that I've ever experienced. So Matrix Reawakening doesn't replace it. However, what you may have found, you guys who are long-term into Matrix Reimprinting or any of the other modalities as well, you may have found that you kind of find yourself in this place when you've resolved all this trauma, when you've cleared all this stuff, and you don't actually know what to do next. I call it a kind of a what next limbo. And I think I was sitting in that place for quite a while myself, like the self-work was still helping me in some way, but I didn't know how to move beyond that cycle. So with Matrix Reawakening, what we're doing is we're giving you a tool or a way to get out of the story, so you don't have to keep going back and fixing, changing, improving, and you get yourself off that cycle of fixing, changing, improving, and bring yourself into the present moment. So it's kind of like a path for you guys to help yourselves and your clients to now come out of the story. Now you've done a big load of trauma clearing, or a big load of clearing with mind detox, or whatever other tool you've been using.
So if you think about the book, Matrix Reimprinting, the tagline for that book, the subtitle is Rewrite Your Past, Transform Your Future, I believe. And
Yes, it is.
with Matrix Reawakening, it's more wake up from your story and transform your present. So they're very different paradigms which they're working in, and they can work side by side, like we talked about in the previous slide.
And it's a really important point. Actually, sitting at the Matrix Reimprinting Convention with some of you guys in February, and remembering like that tagline, rewrite your past, transform your future. I really kind of was sitting there thinking we didn't do anything for the present. We were taking you back, like clearing stuff, taking you forward into the future, like creating future goals. But now it's bringing it right back, as Sandy said, to this present moment, and enabling you to experience this present moment and come out of the kind of the cycle of going backwards and going forwards all the time. So I want to talk a little bit about why Matrix Reawakening, where the title comes from, and how it fits into your current paradigm. So we have two different mindsets here. The first one is the matrix mind. Now you'll recognize the matrix mind. The matrix mind is the one that is the mind of all the conditioning, all the programming, all the stuff that kind of goes on that takes you into the Maya, or the fear of the mind, all the stuff that kind of has you churning and chewing on stuff, and all your stuff that believes that your story is real. That's what in Matrix Reawakening we call the matrix mind.
And we're awakening to the aspect of you that is already awake, your conscious awareness. You see, the reason that you know you have a mind is because you are aware of it. Now, I know that might be a pretty obvious thing to say, but the reason that we know we have a mind is because we are aware that we have a mind. We're aware of the thoughts, we're aware of the emotions, and we're aware of the commentator talking about our physical sensations and all the stuff that we need to do with our day. But what I noticed in my own journey with meditation is that up until I learned meditation and I'd started to awaken myself, I had all my attention on the matrix mind. All my focus was on that which I was aware of. I was only really attentive and aware of what I was aware of, the thoughts, the emotions, and all the temporary things happening within my awareness. But as I started to awaken through meditation, I discovered that there was a still, silent, peace and love-filled conscious awareness which was aware of my mind. In fact, that which was aware of my thoughts was already peaceful. And this was a huge discovery, and we're going to talk about it a bit more later in this webinar, but we just want to show that, again, it's a both. The mind may continue, but when you start to rediscover your own awakened awareness, your relationship with your mind naturally improves, and you can return to peace irrespective of what's happening in the matrix mind.
And I just want to get really clear that we're not saying matrix mind bad, awakened awareness good. Throughout all of this, there's absolutely no judgment here. We're just using this as a frame of reference so we can explain where we're coming from with this. So where you see the cross,
Exactly.
It doesn't mean bad, and the tick, it doesn't mean good, just to be really clear.
Exactly. In my book Thunk, I talk about how the mind isn't anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with the mind. In fact, the mind is an amazing tool that you can use to create amazing things in your life. However, what tends to happen if someone falls asleep to their own awareness, they stop being aware of their own awareness, and they're only aware of their mind, and they have no awareness of what's actually aware, then what can happen is we can have an emotional roller coaster every day, and we can find that we have to fix, change, and improve the mind in order to have a good day. But as you heal your relationship with the mind, you start to be able to engage with it whenever you want. So you really get to experience true mind mastery. That's where you can put your attention on the mind when it's useful, and then come back to stillness and peace when you are done using the mind. So you use the mind like a tool as opposed to the mind using you as a tool.
Definitely. And something that I wanted to add here is that a lot of you, like myself, and I was one of these people as well, used to use positive thinking. So it used to be a thought came in and the thought was there and it was what may be termed as a negative thought. And you'd have to replace that with a positive thought, what's also termed as self soothing. Now, just want to highlight that this is very different from self soothing. You don't have to replace your thoughts with Matrix Reawakening in order to feel okay. Now, it's great if you've been like on that journey of being able to self soothe yourself, but we're going to take you a step beyond this with this work, because when you've got to put in another thought in order to feel okay about the thought that went before, that's a kind of like a very exhausting spiral that you can find yourself on. And for me, now I'm in this place where I don't need to change my thoughts in order to feel okay. And we're going to talk about how the thoughts will still come, but it's your relationship to them that changes. Then it kind of frees up a lot of time and a lot of energy in your day as well. So we've got about 3 or 4 concepts that we're going to introduce you tonight around Matrix Reawakening. There are some more that to introduce you to, but we don't want to overload you with information tonight, and we are going to give you some practical stuff to do as well. So we want to keep the theory as light as possible. So the thing that we want to share with you is the foundation for Matrix Reawakening is that we're overcoming our flaw-based model of reality. So we've got 2 concepts, 2 coexisting concepts in Matrix Reawakening: the never-ending story and the context of your awakening. Now, in the never-ending story, this is the kind of like treadmill that we get on when we're trying to fix, change, or improve our relationship to our story. If any of you know Anthony DeMello, he calls this changing the relationship to your toys. You know, you're literally going around and fixing, changing, improving how you feel about your story. And the basic assumption of this model, of the never-ending story, is that something went wrong in what should have been a flawless life. So you start seeing the things that happen to you, the traumas, the stresses, the life experiences, as something that went wrong in what should have otherwise been a perfect, uninterrupted, and flawless life.
And then there's another way of looking at it. Instead of trying to struggle through life, trying to fix all the wrongs and make things as right as we can make it, we start to recognize that every single moment of every single day that we've ever had on this planet Earth, including this one, is the context of our awakening. That every single thing that's coming into our life is coming into our life in the form that it is in order to help us wake up. You see, I had a bit of a life-changing moment a few years ago when I realized that, what do I really want? I was trying to get the 2.4, kids and the big house and the money and the car and all that sort of stuff. But I realized, ultimately it was empty if I wasn't present enough to experience it fully. And as long as I was in my mind, being governed by the subtle belief that something's not quite right with my life, then I never felt successful. I felt like a fraud, and I never quite got there. But then one day I realized that, maybe I'm here to wake up. Maybe I'm here to evolve. Maybe I'm here to go to sleep at night more awake than I was when I woke up in the morning. I mean, when you start to engage life from the fact that your life is the context of your awakening, in turn you start to resist what happens less. You start to engage with it fully, whatever it looks like, and a greater sense of inner freedom is the natural consequence.
Beautiful. Beautifully said, my friend.
Well,
So,
thank you.
so we've got another 2 opposing models here as well. And this is the unfixable fix and the perfect paradox. Now, this ties in a little bit with what we've already talked about in terms of when you're getting into this kind of idea that you've got to fix, change, and improve yourself all the time. I don't know about you guys who have been on that journey, and I know I've worked with some of you who have been on that journey for weeks, months, years, decades, like absolutely decade upon decade of going round feeling that they need to fix, change, or improve something. And it was certainly the way for me as well. And what underlied this was this underlying sense or this underlying feeling that I was flawed or broken in some way, that there was something wrong with me. And this is inherent culturally for us. It's inherent. Like we programmed into it. We experience it as we grow up. We experience it as a message from a lot of people around us that there is something fundamentally flawed or wrong with us. And so the unfixable fix and the perfect paradox give us the complete opposite view to this, because you're not broken, but
You're free to change whatever you want. And the wonderful thing about the perfect paradox is the fact that here's the thing, guys. We already touched upon the reality, that the underlying nature of reality is that there's a still, silent, conscious awareness which is already at peace, which is aware of whatever is happening throughout your day. And the more you start to direct your attention onto that inner consciousness, the more you start to experience an inner perfection. You see, the body can malfunction sometimes. It can we can create some sort of the body can create some sort of sickness or whatever, or the mind can have a whole range of different positive and negative thoughts, and we can have a whole range of different emotions, and stuff can happen in our life. But amidst all that, within you, there's a perfect conscious awareness. Conscious awareness doesn't break, it doesn't get sick, and it's never limited. It's absolutely unbounded by its nature. And so as you start to engage life from a more conscious awareness perspective, the awakened awareness as we call it in Matrix Reawakening, you start to experience a perfect paradox. And what that is you have an inner sense of perfection because you're directly experiencing your own consciousness. And whilst you're experiencing that inner perfection, there may be things that appear to be requiring your attention and needing fixed, changed, and improved on the outside. So you have this kind of perfect paradox where you start to recognize that you're not broken, you're absolute love, and there's nothing wrong with you, and you can really engage life fully and do whatever you want to improve your finances, improve your health, sort out that relationship conflict or whatever. So that's what we mean by a perfect paradox. You're not broken, but there's also things that you might want to fix. So it's something that mind can find hard to get around. But if you start through working with us and experiencing much more of your own conscious awareness, you start to experience this wonderful perfection, this perfect paradox on the inside as you gauge your life on the inner possibilities on the outside.
And I want to take this back to my original story that I shared with you guys when I was talking about the fact that I was laying in bed with chronic fatigue, and I just had this kind of turning point where I realized that everything was perfect, and it didn't mean that I would stay in bed for the rest of my life, kind of surrender into the perfection of the sickness. There were still things that I could then do, but I was doing it in a completely different way than I did previously, because before I was doing it because I thought I needed to be fixed. I thought I needed to be changed. I thought I needed to be healed. And I thought until I was, then everything was a failure and I was a failure and nothing was worth living. But when I had that turning point, every moment from then on became joy. Now, it was still challenging. I was still in physical pain. But I was in every moment wasn't trying to get to an exterior goal or an external goal. So I kind of moved through everything in a completely different way than I had been doing when I was in this kind of mindset that until I was fixed there, then nothing would be the same again. And let's talk a little bit about a couple more of the concepts before we get into some of the experiential stuff with you guys.
I love this one.
Me too, me too. I think probably because I can see so much of myself in the old rule book, and so much of how I used to live my life in this old rule book. So we've got the old rule book and the new outlook. Now, just to touch upon the old rule book with you. That old rule book is everything that you think it means to be spiritual, good, or holy. Now, most people that I've worked with, and whether it's just a reflection of me and where I was, but most people I've worked with have got some kind of rule book. And it may be for spiritual living, but it may also be for, things like what your life should look like in terms of how perfect your body should be, how perfect your finances should be, how perfect your career should be. But it's the rules basically about what you think it means to be spiritual, good, holy, right, better, and it's the way that you live by those rules, and it takes you out of the moment because you're constantly in your head trying to live up into this kind of pious alter ego, this kind of like spiritual ideal of who you think you should be. And there may even be an image that goes with it. Sometimes I joke with some of my clients, it's like a holy image of yourself kind of in a robe almost, with your hands like together in prayer, kind of sitting on top of a mountain. And although I'm exaggerating and being quite extreme, there's probably some concept that you have of yourself where you think you've got to be this kind of like spiritual, enlightened, full of light person. It takes a lot of energy to be chasing that consistently, and to be trying to like live up to that consistently, and chasing that over and over again.
And I had the exact same thing. When I first got into this, I picked up a huge number of concepts, and it was incredibly stressful. And in fact, I sometimes joke because when I first became a life coach, I had one of the worst years of my life because I realized I got a business card printed. It had Sanya being life coach on it, and I suddenly had to be happy all the time. And it was the most stressful thing, and I felt like such a fraud because I was like, yes, hi, life coach. It was so embarrassing to think about it now. But I picked up all these concepts, and I made myself ill on detox. I once went into Marks and Spencers and left with a bag of nuts because everything was toxic suddenly. Because I was into detox, and I just ended up over time gathering loads of spiritual concepts. And what I found was, when I wrote my first book in 2005, I was like the new kid in the block, and I wanted to try and prove myself as a good writer and prove that I knew a lot of good stuff. But all I really had at that point was a head full of concepts. And it wasn't until I started meditating and having guidance from really, conscious teachers, was that I realized that all the concepts I'd gathered hadn't actually brought me any further to an ongoing sense of inner peace and fullness and self-love. In fact, quite the opposite for me personally. I was actually very self-violent, and I hadn't realized how violent I was being toward my body and myself, trying to live up to the spiritual concept. And what I've really seen over the last few years is that there are already plenty conceptually enlightened people on planet Earth. But what planet Earth really needs at the moment is people experiencing enlightened lives, actually experientially living consciously. And that's the big difference. That's the difference between the old rule book and the new outlook. When you start to see the new outlook, you start to see that you can make conscious choices, but if someone else chooses to do something, then you no longer judge them as, oh, that they eat meat, or oh, they have a glass of wine occasionally, or whatever. That's not very spiritual. They just said a swear word. There's so many concepts we can pick up, and so many ideas of what an enlightened person looks like, that we end up missing the innocent, direct experience of our own true nature along the way. And so as we let go of the conceptual spiritual living, we start to actually live a very spiritual life, but it's actually very simple, and it's very humble, and it really doesn't require much concepts and ideas. It's just a natural byproduct of you being your true and real unbounded self.
Beautiful. And, I can really relate to that. I used to have so many rules, like meditation, hack to habit at 7 o'clock in the morning, and, just this whole list of things. And I always knew when I'd gone out of center because I made my rules even tighter. I always used to think this would bring me back into center. And so you kind of find yourself on this spiral. You go out of center, and you make a set of rules, and your mind gets really excited because now you're going to live up to this spiritual concept of who you are. And you get onto the train and you feel like pious and you feel good, and then it slips, and you just go round in this cycle over and over again. Pretty exhausting, really.
I like to liken it to an invisible game of snakes and ladders.
Yeah.
Where people, they have a good few days and they think to themselves, yeah, this has been a good few days, it's better, and I'm being good. And it's like they've gone up a ladder, and then a couple of days later they have a few bad thoughts, or they wake up with some weird emotions in them, and they're like, it's like they slid down a snake, and they're like back down to, oh, I thought I was getting somewhere. That whole idea of getting somewhere, we need to let go of, because we're already here. And the mind will always put your enlightenment and your peace into the future. And we'll talk about more of that on the actual webinar series that we're going to do. But it's amazing how beautiful life becomes when you let go of all the concepts and you're more innocent with life, and you really do experience heaven on earth. But we can talk about that later.
Beautiful. So I'm going to let you take this one, my friend, because this is your ballpark.
All right, yeah. So yeah, you don't have to stop thinking. What a relief. um, in my opinion, I think there's three words that are the three of the most confusing words in the self-help, mind, body, spirit, uh, personal awakening genre. And that these three words that confuse the hell out of people are the three words peace of mind. Peace of mind. It's one of the most common ones that you hear, but it's one of the most confusing because when someone, I don't know about you guys, but when I think of the term peace of mind, it conjures up in my mind an image of me having no thoughts, just an absolute stillness between the ears, and certainly no what my mind would call negative emotions. But what I've discovered over the last few years of this meditation and working with people from around the world in my retreats is that peace of mind is actually quite tricky if you take account of the scientifically proven mind-body connection. If there's activities happening in the body, there's probably going to be activity happening in the mind due to the mind-body connection. And so not only that, but many people are having thousands of thoughts every single day. And so to try to stop that river of natural thought flow can be very stressful, and people can feel like a complete failure. The good news is, although peace of mind can be quite challenging, and it may take a huge amount of meditation for the average person to clear their body of stress and get into a state where they're having no thoughts, the good news is that anyone and every single person we're talking to tonight on this webinar can experience peace with mind. Peace with mind. And that's really what we're talking about here. You don't have to stop having thoughts in order to experience peace with mind. You just need to learn how to be at peace with the thoughts you're having. You don't even have to get rid of the emotions that you're having. And you might say, well, you don't understand. You don't understand the feelings that I'm feeling, but you don't actually have to let go of the feelings and have them go away in order to experience peace. Peace is the context of your thoughts, and peace is the context of your mind, which we'll talk about earlier again. Sorry, we'll talk later about in the full series when we've got more time with you. But really, peace with mind is where you start to, again, wake up to your own conscious awareness. And as you start to rest more attentive to your real self, which your true nature is peace, believe it or not, you start to experience a peace even if you're having thoughts. And that is a remarkable thing, that you can experience peace with the emotions that you're having, simultaneous. It's not an either or, it's a both. And so we just wanted to make sure that you knew that we were never going to imply at any point that you have to somehow stop having thoughts. And the reality is what you're going to learn is to heal your relationship with your thoughts and emotions. And in doing so, reawaken to your real self.
Beautiful. And for you guys who have been into EFT, emotional freedom techniques, and are used to releasing the emotion, we're taking a different approach here. Although those techniques are still valid, if they're still part of the process as well. But we're looking at this from a slightly different angle here now. So when to use Matrix Reawakening? To get yourself and to help yourself to get from the matrix mind to the awakened awareness. This is basically when you trigger yourself with your thoughts. So, for example, you might be walking down the street having an absolutely phenomenal day. The sun's shining, the breeze is wafting into your hair, and then 2 minutes later, you're in absolute dire distress and you didn't see anybody get run over and you didn't just get a call and hear some bad news. What happened was an inside job. And you triggered yourself with your own thoughts. And it's probably familiar to most of you, where suddenly, like, you've had this thought and suddenly you're riding this thought like a surfboard.
And also, I used to have that. I used to have it whereby, like, I'd be walking up the street and then suddenly a thought would cross my mind about my girlfriend or something and what she was probably thinking about me or what she meant by that. And my girlfriend wasn't even there, but I was having this imaginary conversation in my head, and I was feeling the feelings that were being generated as a result. And it really was, an example of being triggered by your thoughts.
It's so real, isn't it, when it happens? It
feels so real.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. It just feels so real and uncomfortable, and we don't necessarily realize in that moment. And so we have to start trying to fix and change and improve our external world and call the girlfriend or whatever, the partner or whatever, to try to fix it. But the reality is, that's the illusion.
And also, when you find yourself caught in the story or obsessing. So like the one that we've just described is like the acute thing where one moment you're okay and the next moment like you trigger yourself with your thought. But there's also where you're having a life experience where you're so lost in the story and you're obsessing about it over and over again. Like maybe somebody said something to you, or maybe somebody did something that wasn't in alignment with you, and you find yourself kind of in that thing where you're just chewing on it and chewing on it, and you can't let go. And I think it'd probably be a good place for your red car analogy, actually, this, unless you wanted to save it for later.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I mean, one of the things that I love to explore is the possibility that although it feels this way at first sight, that our thoughts don't actually have the power to cause us suffering if we heal our relationship with it. And a great story that my spiritual teacher once taught me was this. I want you to imagine that we could all get up from our individual homes, gather beside a busy road, and just sit there in the sun, in the nice, on the grass, and your job was to count the red cars coming by. And so you sat there, and you got, a blue car, white car, silver car, red car, and we all just think to ourselves, oh, there's one. And then we have another car, a few cars coming by, and there's another red one, two, and so on and so forth. And give me a name of someone that's on the line tonight, Sasha. I'm not picking anyone. I just want you a name for this.
I'm guessing because all the names say friend tonight. The names haven't come up, but I'm guessing that. In fact, actually, I know that our beautiful friend Lois is here.
Lois.
Lois.
Lois. Okay, so Lois. So we're all sitting beside the road. We're just counting the cars, and then a red car comes by, and then suddenly Lois jumps up and starts running up the road behind the red car, and we're like, "What's Lois doing?" And then, not even that, with a spectacular leap, she managed to leap and grab onto the bumper of one of the red cars. And then she starts getting dragged up the street. Her shoes are flying everywhere. Her hair's getting all messed up. Her blouse is getting torn. And then it gets even more bizarre, guys, because she then shouts back at us, guys, this car is hurting me. This car is hurting me. And we look at each other like we're, amazed, because we shout back going, no, the car's not hurting you. Holding on to it is. Holding on to the car is hurting you. Let go. Let go. And so that really is, in a nutshell, what Matrix Reawakening can help you do, is that when you realize that you've been triggered by a few thoughts, your own personal red car, or you find yourself caught up in your story obsessing about something and you're really churning on the inside, then what we're going to teach you is to let you see that actually you're feeling, you're thinking about it, and by letting go of the thoughts through the process of Matrix Reawakening, you let go of like the car, and you can return back to peace and completeness far quicker than you might be able to therapeutically shift yourself if you had to try and find some sort of mind concept to make your mind happier, but you can come back to peace much quicker. So it's I love that analogy. Don't you, Sash?
I just love that one. In fact, it helped me a lot. Either that or realizing that you're riding your thought like a surfboard. You're on it and you just like you're literally surfing it. You don't realize that you can get off at some point. I love this because until we kind of see these analogies, we often don't realize what we're actually doing inside our mind because it's so familiar to go through these patterns for, I'm guessing, most people.
And the thing is, it's tricky sometimes because the thoughts are personal.
Yeah.
We're referring to them just as thoughts, and it sounds very simple and easy, but the reality is that thought normally has a personal story, and that's why it's useful to have a technique like Matrix Reawakening to disengage your grasp of the thought that feels so personal and come back to the most personal thing you can find, which is your real self.
Beautiful. So we aren't going to give you the full technique tonight. I will teach you the full technique tonight, but we want to give you an experience of it. Now, this comes with a disclaimer, obviously. Only partake in this exercise if you're in sound mental health and if you're not too kind of lost in your traumas or, you've not got too many big T traumas to resolve. Otherwise, we'd recommend just kind of listening along and perhaps working with a Matrix Reawakening practitioner or with one of us guys to work through something if it's much bigger. But
assume... Yeah, there's going to be time in also the longer series of webinars that you might want to choose if you're enjoying tonight's webinar, where we can do stuff, but it's important that you don't judge it on what you hear now, because there's more to this as we take you through the process. We just want to make sure you know what you're signing up for if you choose to come and play with us.
and to give you an experience of it as well. And if you, for you guys who are going to carry on and not keep working with us, just to have a few little things that you can use in your day-to-day life that will enable you to experience a shift in your thinking like we've described. So the first part then we're looking at is the mind made and the reality check. So if you're playing along with me now, what I'd like to invite you to do is something that you've been chewing on with your mind, some reoccurring thought, some special thought, something that you perceive that somebody's said to you or done to you. Just bring that to mind now for a moment. So you get a clear idea of what that is, and you tune into what that is, and you have a little kind of a little dance with thinking about it for a moment. And then we're going to do also with you a reality check. So for the reality check, what I want to suggest that you do is really realize this present moment. So if you're sitting on a chair, feel the physicality of yourself on the chair. Feel your back in the chair. Feel where your legs are contacting either the chair or the floor. Feel your breath coming in and out of your body. And with your eyes, notice a few different objects in the room. And even start to notice the space in between the objects. And also anything that you can hear outside my voice. I can hear the church bells outside. I'm hoping they're not picking up on the recording as well. Anything that you can smell, anything that you can taste. So you really arrive in your physical body in this moment.
What we discover when we do the mind-made and reality check is the difference between these two elements. When we're in the mind-made, we're in the story. And what's very useful and an important part of Matrix Reawakening is to have this reality check so you can see the move that you're making between being engaged in the story in your mind, which is an illusion and an imagination, and then coming back to the reality of the here and now and the present moment. And what we can discover is that more often than not, the problem, although it may appear to be happening in reality, isn't actually happening in the reality of the here and now, but instead in a story that's happening in your mind. And so we temporarily go into the story to then leave the story to come into the reality check, and so we can start to see that dance between the mind made and the reality check. And that alone starts the awakening, starts to see that actually what I thought was real in my mind is actually not half as real as the reality of where I am right now. And from that solid foundation of the here and now, we then proceed on to the next part of a reawakening, which is to discover and see that much of the stress and suffering that one experiences is that although one of the reasons that it feels like a problem is because your mind believes and is justified to resist what's happening. And it's through the inner resistance to what's happening, or happened, or might happen, and the resistance to the thoughts about it as well, that's actually causing a large part of the stress, the constriction, and any negative emotions that you may feel that you're feeling. And what the reason we call it the resist persist part, because as we know, what you resist tends to persist. And so we then take that understanding that actually what's keeping this in play is my unconscious judgments and resistance to whatever I'm thinking about, or the judgments and resistance happening in the mind-made version of my reality. We can then flip it and use some of the three most powerful words on the planet when it comes to awakening, which is simply bring it on. And when you start to say bring it on to the feelings and the thoughts that you're having, they start to lose their power. Don't they, Sash?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I love this because it's the total opposite of what we've been doing with EFT and matrix reimprinting. You know, we've been find the feeling, like tap the feeling away. With this, it's completely the opposite. And I get quite excited about this because I want to invite you guys now to have an experience of this. So we had this this thought going through our mind, and we saw that we did a reality check. But now what I want you to do is find or locate where you feel that thought in your body, where you feel the resistance in your body about what you've been experiencing, what you heard, what you were thinking about, what's been happening. And somewhere in your body, you'll feel that resistance. And just notice where you're feeling it and what you're resisting about it. So where you feel it and what you're resisting about it. And instead of doing what you may usually do, which is either A, squash it down, or B, tap it away, the complete opposite here, say bring it on to that feeling. Really allow that feeling, give it space, but very consciously, still with your back in the chair, still with your focus on it, and allow that feeling to just be whatever it is. It might get stronger, it might bubble up, it might bubble over, it might be really intense for a minute. Just really sit with it and watch it with this kind of whole bring it on attitude about it. And notice what happens when you do. I just want to give you a moment to have an experience of that.
See, one of the things that gives this power is your mind not wanting the experience. There's a subtle judgment that says, this shouldn't be happening, there's something wrong with my individual experience, and that's very limiting. And so this bring it on attitude helps to release any resistance and helps to, I guess, readdress the balance of power. You're no longer giving your power away to this feeling, but actually you're going, I'm much bigger than this feeling. I'm huge. I'm this conscious awareness which is observing this feeling at the moment. And the observer of that is already at peace, even though there might be emotions happening within my body. And so when we move from resistance into the state of the attitude of bring it on, it can help it dissolve.
Love it. And obviously we're just touching on some of the things that we'd spend a lot more time with you here on when we were doing a session with you and teaching you this properly. And also what you can also do now you've kind of like been in that feeling and allowed the resistance and kind of said bring it on, you can start to separate the thought out from the feeling. So you can start to see like a lot of time where the thought comes in and then where that thought becomes a feeling and then where you kind of get caught up in the feeling, because it's not the thought itself that's actually the thing that is creating the biggest experience for you. It's the feeling that goes with the thought that's creating the experience for you. So instead of being lost in the story, as you may have been before, you can start to separate the story from the feeling that it creates and watch the story. So you start to see the story rather than be the story. You're able to observe it rather than, like Sandy said, be like holding on to that red car and being dragged along. And once you're able to separate that thought from that feeling and realize that the two are independent, then it loses its power, it loses its strength, and you're able to then watch it from a place of consciousness and awareness and not be pulled about by the thought.
Now, we don't have time to cover it tonight, but then at this point, what you usually do is you would start to play with what we've been talking about, seeing it, don't be it, but by incorporating it into the beautiful mind calm meditation technique. Now, mind calm, or the word calm, stands for conscious awareness life meditation. So the technique is really, helping you to become much more consciously aware in life through this beautiful form of meditation. This form of meditation that you can do with your eyes open or closed. And if you were going to be doing a Matrix Reawakening session, the person would have said what their problem is. You then help them to go through the process that we've just gone through with you. And then from that more awakened state, we then enter into a short spell of meditation with each other to help play with closing your eyes in order to wake up, to see when you've gone into the story. And then when you do, we have these beautiful, what we call mind calm thoughts, and a way of using the mind calm thoughts, which helps you to awaken from the story, and in doing so, let go of it. And what happens is you create this beautiful loop, and this beautiful cycle that you experience during any mind calm session where you are consciously aware, and then out of a natural habit, you fall asleep into thinking, then you realize and you see it, don't be it. And from that more awakened state, you would bring in one of the calm thoughts that we will teach you, and then you remain gently alert in a conscious state. And what happens, guys, is that although Matrix Reawakening is an intervention that helps you to wake up from your story, and you can do it solely on its own, by incorporating it with MindCam, it helps you to integrate it into your day-to-day living, and it makes it more of a habit in your day-to-day life. Now, is this around about the time, Sash, that you wanted me to share that little mind calm game, so we could leave people at the end of this webinar with a beautiful experience?
Actually, we were going to do that right at the end, weren't we? We were going to talk a little bit about the
Ah,
program. Yeah. Let's
you're
share it.
right. So
Yeah.
we're gonna leave you guys hanging for that, and we'll tell you about what the program is. So
Beautiful.
that's great.
Beautiful. So we've got a webinar series to share with you guys. If you want to learn more of these tools, if you want to learn them to be able to apply them to yourself, and if you're ready to end the therapy cycle for yourself and your clients. Also, if you find yourself getting lost in your drama or your story, even though you've done maybe some self-work or lots of self-work, if you still find you having those dramatic highs and lows and getting pulled about by what's happening in your external circumstances, or feel like your strings are being pulled by people, then it's also for you. And it's for you if you want to experience peace in the present moment rather than some future moment. Sandy was talking about the postponement of peace before, and how we feel that sometimes we need to postpone peace until our external circumstances have changed. So we're going to share with you that you can experience peace whatever's happening in your external experience.
And I just, before you go on, Sash, I don't know if you can go back easily enough, but I just
Yeah,
want
of course.
to really reiterate and make sure you guys are aware that when we say end the therapy cycle for good, please be aware that it's not an either or, it's a both. So you will still, if you do mind detox or matrix printing already, then you would still be doing that with your clients initially, because many people, when I find when they show up at my clinics, they're really needing that initially.
Sure.
But what I find is we get to this limbo, like Sasha was talking about, and that's the point. You would actually bring in the Matrix Reawakening to help the person live in a much more consciously awakened state moving forward. Otherwise, what tends to happen is that you've helped the person with the change game, but their mind is still in the judgment game. They're still in the change game. And so the person goes home, and after a few days, weeks, or months, if they're lucky, their mind kicks in and creates the same old problems, or with a different look to them, but they find more problems that need fixed. And so by ending the cycle, it's more about helping people through the time you're working with them to let go of that need to constantly have to fix, change, and improve, and actually awaken beyond that limited view. And it's really what not just the individuals need, but the planet is really moving into this phase where we're moving from this limited judgmental state much more into a more awakened state. So I just want you to emphasize that it's not an either or. You would use it alongside whatever you're maybe already using with your guys. Or
Absolutely.
You could use it solely on its own if you weren't already practicing something.
Absolutely. And so on this series, you're going to learn 2 tools. You're going to learn Matrix Reawakening, and you're also going to learn
Mindcam.
so we're going to be sharing both these tools with you. We've touched on them tonight very, very briefly in the time constraints of the webinar, but we'll be sharing both the tools with you in full so that you can apply them to yourselves during the program and beyond. So it starts on the 23rd of July. And it's 6 hours of webinars plus online support through a forum. So we've got you on the 23rd of July, twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. UK time for 6 sessions. And it's the entry level to Matrix Reawakening coaching. So if you do want to go on and be a Matrix Reawakening coach with us, you have to do the 6 webinars anyway. So it's the entry level to that, as well as being a great tool for your personal development as well. So just to be really clear with you guys, you can come on the program if you just want to use it for your personal use, and you can come on it if you want to develop with it professionally as well. It's for both of you guys. Now the investment, we've kept this at a phenomenally low price. In fact, what we've done is we've matched my original price for my Matrix Re-imprinting webinar series, which was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, going back now. So it's actually $99. Now, some of you have been on programs with me for $400, $500 more, and you used to invest in it in webinars with me. But we wanted to make this one really accessible because we want to share this information with as many of you as possible. So it's $99, and we'll refund this off your coaching training if you decide to train with us later. But also, just to reiterate, even if you're not coming on a coaching training with us, you can come and use it for your personal use as well. So we got a bunch of bonuses for you guys, and what I'm going to offer you is the first 5 10th, 15th, and 20th person that signs up with us, I'm going to do them a free half an hour Matrix Reawakening session so that you can, we're going to record this so that the guys can listen to it with your permission, of course. And it's just going to give you an experience of Matrix Reawakening. So I've got 5 of those to give away free. Also, if you sign up by midnight on Friday, you get a place on, I'm going to do a 4-week bonus coaching program. And within that, Sandy's also going to do a 1 bonus webinar session that's going to teach you all the mind calm games, of which he's going to share one of those with you in a moment. And also, if you sign up by midnight on Friday, you also get to bring a friend for free. So you just email us the name of the friend that you want to gift a place to. And within that $99, we'll also send a free place to a friend as well. So we've got a whole bunch of bonuses with you. We want to make this accessible as possible for you guys. And we want to share it with as many of you as possible because we're really excited about enabling you to have these experiences that we've been having ourselves and that our clients have been having. So to sign up, go to www.sashaallenby.com/webinars. That's www.sashaallenby, all one word, .com/webinars. And you can sign up there right now. We've got the sign up there ready right now. But to finish with you guys, Sandy's going to do that phenomenal exercise, one of his amazing, what he calls mind calm games, to help you get into a really beautiful space to finish. So over to you, sir.
Okay, so by now you've heard the word mind calm a lot, and wouldn't it be nice if we finished this session with you enjoying some of it? So this is a very simple technique. It's a technique you can do anytime, and it's a way in which you use your eyes, which helps you to experience much more calm, confidence, and contentment. And that's why I call it 3C vision, because you feel much more calm, confident, content. So wherever you are now, I want you to find something in front of you on the screen. Now, I'd like you to be looking at the central T, the middle T of Matrix, because that's probably going to be relatively in front of you. And as you look at the T of Matrix, I'd invite you to start to, as you still maintain a look ahead at the T, I'd invite you to see what it's like if you let your attention start to open up wide to the left and right. So as I'm looking at the T at the moment, I'm starting to notice the bottle of water on my left, and there's some paperwork over on the right, and there's a little bit of change on the table. I really do need to clean my desk. And if I start to open up to my left and right, I start to even see the walls beyond the table and the door and the lamp on the table. So as I keep looking at the T and I start to open up my attention left and right, as you do too, start to notice what you can see. Now don't look at it directly left and right, because that's not the game. The game is to look ahead and simultaneously open your vision up left and right. Now, as you do that, you might also want to see what it's like to keep looking ahead at the T, but start to notice what's below you and above you. So I can see the keyboard stretching down to my legs. The keyboard's not my legs, but I can see my legs below. And above, I can see the window extending in front of me and then go up to the roof. And so you start to look ahead, but you're simultaneously looking left and right, or noticing what's in the left and right, up and down, with this more wider vision. And I just want you to notice as you do that what happens between your ears. If you're looking ahead but simultaneously noticing what's in the left and right, up and down, I want you to notice what happens between your ears and what's happening in your mind. So as you look straight ahead at the T and you start to open your gaze up left and right, up and down, I want you to start to notice what's happening in your mind. And please just pop a little message into the box now. So Sasha can see them and we can get some feedback.
Oh, beautiful. We've got Isabel, so she's starting to yawn so she can feel relaxation. Mm-hmm. We got Jean chipped in and said, how beautiful. No matter how old, there is still so much more to learn. Thanks, guys.
Beautiful.
Karen says quiet.
Lovely.
Amy says present and calm.
Beautiful.
Eddie says mind goes still.
Wow, do you hear this, guys? So just these 3 or 4 people have been, saying if you do this little simple exercise, you can immediately start to play with mind calm, and that's just really the tip of the iceberg. And so I just wanted to encourage you to maybe play with that game. Now, you don't need the T of Matrix in order to be able to do this. Anytime you want to do this, you can make the screen bigger if you want, Sash, if you want.
Beautiful,
It's up to
yeah.
you.
I'm just looking at some more coming in. Mike and
All right, these
Marianne.
still coming in.
Yeah, Marianne says day sleeping, and Mike went blurry. Anki in
Hmm?
Sweden said it makes a calm. Um, Lois, everything is calm. I'm just fine. An opening in my heart. Some beautiful responses. I wish we had time to read them all out, guys. Some absolutely beautiful responses there.
Isn't that amazing, guys? Really, just that simple little technique, and there's many more to come, but that simple technique helps you just immediately experience a mind camp. But what if you play with it more, you'll start to notice that when you're not thinking, you're present. And in these moments that you had that engaged, you were much more conscious and present of this moment. And you would have to leave that and go into the mind made, which we talked about earlier, in order to engage in the matrix again. So awakening is very much about being able to see it, don't be it, being able to live in a more conscious and awake way, and really step beyond the story to transform your present moment forever. So I really hope you guys do choose to join me and Sasha on the webinar series. We'd love to have you on it to play with us and to experience these transformations from a much more conscious and place of inner perfection.
Beautiful, my friend. Beautifully said. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Sandy. It's been a real pleasure sharing this with you and with all the guys that showed up tonight. And I'm just really excited about the series and about having the opportunity to share with you all further.
And until next we speak, we wish you infinite peace and limitless love. Goodbye.
Beautiful. Goodbye for now. Goodbye.